What happens when a promoter texts you, "I'm working on this event and we'd love to have a guitar player from the district play this beautiful and legendary status song. I thought of you. What do you think?" And at the same time that I'm really excited to do it and even think to myself, I have the perfect guitar for it that I had made for these specific scenarios and you wouldn't even imagine, but I love the song and I've been wanting to cover it for years. There's only one problem. I look at my schedule and calendar, and between work and all sorts of other projects, I only have a maximum of 10 days to work on it. Crazy, right? Perhaps. This is what this documentary is all about. This is an obvious example of what I like to call the autopilot syndrome. Nothing very crazy here. This might be the only time I have to practice. I left my backpack at home. My computer just can't handle it. You really can't tell I'm sick. So update, it sucks ass. It sounds really, really bad. Gonna have to figure out another solution. So it's day 8 today. I've been thinking about how I should do the arrangement, and while I think it would be cool to just play it by myself, I kinda think I should probably try and do it somewhat in Brad Baker demo style. Because if you think about it, when I was hired to play this gig, on one hand because I am a guitar player in the district, but also because she knows my work and she selected me and my project before, so I think she might be expecting me to play the song in a way that is kinda like the things that I usually do. And while if I just play it for myself, I don't think I'd be doing a disservice to that expectation. It also kinda gives me that feeling of, shouldn't I be giving the people what they want? So I think I'm gonna try and orchestrate something, but I'll probably just leave it towards the end of the song, so that maybe people listen to the first part of the arrangement, and they then assume it's going to be pretty faithful to the original, and I then surprise them with something else. So I loaded in my Brad Baker demos preset into Studio One, and I'm going to try and do something with it. It's around 4:30 p.m. and I'm done teaching for today, so hopefully I'll get a couple of hours into this under my belt. But even then, we'll see, because I might have to leave tonight for the professional reasons, but we'll talk about those later. So yeah, I'm gonna go work on the orchestration process. Probably not as much in a rock context like multiple guitars and heavy drums and heavy bass, but definitely something with a little bit more texture. I'm not going to record the whole thing. I'll probably just do something and then show you what I made, because otherwise I think I'm just going to take way longer to do something if I'm not focused 100% on it. So yeah, I think I'll stop for right now, but I'll definitely give you an update later. Alright, so a couple of hours have went by, and I kind of loaded in my usual Brad Baker demos preset. It has a bunch of my orchestral sounds and synth sounds, and I thought it would be cool to not start straight away with the orchestral things, so I started basically after the first chorus section, the first B section. If we go back here, and that's when the orchestral stuff kicks in. As you can see here in this later section, I then kind of exploded much more onto here. To be honest, I'm just programming and typing this in with mouse and keyboard. I don't have a MIDI keyboard, so I don't program with a MIDI keyboard, and I'm kind of used to it and to the workflow of it. I kind of just like to audiate sections, and as I do, I just program them in and put them in. I don't think I can like fully play everything that's going on, plus recording the screen for you guys. My computer just can't handle it, so I guess I'll just bring you through the thought process a little bit. We're doing most of like straight up orchestra stuff. Right now, I'm not worried too much about like the type of orchestration and instrumentation, just trying to get cool sounds, especially because for the type of gig that this is and the type of environment that we're playing at, I don't think it's going to be super important to do this properly and by the book. And if I release this later on, it's going to be a cover, it's not going to be an original song, so I'm not going to tell you that I don't care, but I don't care enough to like get actual players to play these things and make sheet music with all the proper instruments. Not only do I not have the patience right now, I also don't have the full amount of time to do it. So this section here, which is the first repetition of the A theme, because I am playing it in a lower octave than the original version is, I thought it would be cool to add a little bit of extra sparkle with some woodwinds playing, mostly just the chords that we're playing over, occupying a little bit of the more higher pitch areas here. Some fun bits here and there, like this section here. I thought I'd do a little bit of pseudo-chromatic harmony with some contrary motion by having one side of the spectrum going down and the other side of the spectrum going up. And there are some crunchier chords here, like this pseudo D7 flat 9 chord. Meanwhile, as we're doing that, we have these pizzicato strings, just adding a little bit of like rhythmical texture.
And for that first repetition, I have the more sustained sounding strings, just doing a little bit of accompaniment, mostly hitting chord tones, not exactly melodies, just adding a little bit of support, because right now I just want you to get the flavor of something that's adding to the original melody instead of it being overpowering, and now we're just focusing on the orchestral parts. If I play the whole thing with all the strings and all the woodwinds, this is what we get. And here we enter with the verse. Alright, and then here in this section, because it's where the guitar goes up an octave, I maybe could switch up to having the woodwinds doing the lower parts instead. And again, I kind of just copy pasted whatever the strings were doing in the previous part. It just adds a different texture than having the strings doing it. And instead of the pizzicato strings doing the more rhythmical parts, I have shorter woodwinds doing that same section. Again, just copy paste it because we don't have enough time to just fully develop new things over and over again. And when it comes to the strings, I decided to have a couple of melodies going on at the same time. So there's always this one melody that's just kind of like quarter notes going the whole way through. Sometimes they get a little bit shorter so that you kind of have a little bit of a different vibe. And then you have another melody that kind of follows this pattern of like a half note and then 2/8 notes, and then maybe a quarter note and 2/16 notes. It kind of repeats that pattern as we go, but it depends. Like in here, there's a little bit of a different variation. I kind of just went by ear of things that I felt like sounded cool. And since the lower woodwind parts are kind of like straightforward, they're mostly like just half note or sometimes quarter note patterns. And with the shorter, it's always that like very ostinato-ish, very rhythmical pattern. I thought it would be cooler for the strings to feel a little bit more disconnected and not so rhythmically tight. So if we then combine all the instruments we have laying around, we'll end up with something like this. Obviously, just having the guitars along with it is going to sound completely different. Again, I'll just play a little bit, but I know it's going to crash sooner or later. Then when we get to section B, I knew I wanted to break people's expectations a little bit, because you might guess that I'm just going to explode into the new section and have a full orchestra going on, but not quite yet. The pizzicato string has something like this, kind of just like arpeggios, trying to again give it a little bit of a more rhythmical ostinato-ish section. There's a little synth that I have going on. It sounds kind of like piano-ish, a lot of reverb and spacey vibes, kind of just repeating the same note over and over again. And meanwhile, because again I didn't want it to fully explode yet and I wanted to keep it a little bit esoterical, I have the woodwinds doing something that's more trebly stuff. The strings are doing pretty much the same thing, but since with the strings you kind of get a little bit of like an extra juice, it almost acts as a little bit of a thickening agent, and we get progressively bigger as the arrangement goes on, but again, not trying to go too over the top. I also have these like Easter Island percussion parts, just again to add a little bit of extra weight to the main hits, pretty low in the mix too. But in the overall spectrum, I think it makes a difference. And while originally I kind of just wanted to subvert the audience's expectations by, instead of having like a chill part with one of the melodies, but playing it higher up with some more delicate chords, that it would be cool to just play it with like these lower inversion, semi-distorted chords. While I still think it would sound cool, because there's already a section where I'm just playing by myself, maybe this is where we should go like epic sounding, you know? Usually when we do, the main melody ends up being higher in pitch, very high and rich melody that everyone can connect with, so why not do something different? As I'm recording this video, there's this like remix of a song called Trap Queen by Fetty. I obviously have no idea who that is. But it's been popular on like Instagram Reels and TikTok, and it mixes this like very hip-hop-ish sounding song, very contemporary, with a not so contemporary drop, I guess. In some ways it is through the orchestration. It sounds very Hans Zimmer-like. You can think like Interstellar or Inception. It's like that kind of a vibe. And while I never heard the song, the truth is that that arrangement actually sounded pretty cool, and it's been in my head for a couple of weeks now. It was pretty trendy, now it's dying off, and I thought it would be cool to do something like that with this section here. Again, I can't play you the whole thing because my computer is going to fry itself, but I can show you the individual parts. So like when it comes to percussion bits, we have some gongs and cymbals here. Nothing like very high in the mix, just to help us transition. The Easter Island things, nothing really crazy at all. I have some more cymbals here from Easy Drummer. They're just from the Progressive Rock pack, nothing fancy at all. And I have this bit of like XXL percussion that just adds, again, a little bit of a more rhythmical quality to it. And that's pretty much all we have when it comes to percussion. Again, I didn't want it to be like full-on rock drumming style. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to do something different. And since this song was also made for a movie originally, I kind of didn't want it to have like full rock band vibes. When it comes to strings, again, nothing really fancy either. I decided to go for a more pattern-based pseudo arpeggio, pseudo scalar run, pseudo ostinato. Sounds kind of like this. If we keep up with the more rhythmical parts of woodwind, there's this section here that accompanies the string part. While the string part is more all over the place, this one kind of has like a more directional thing going on, like up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, you know, that sort of vibe. If we combine it with the strings, it sounds something like this. Kind of crazy and almost chaotic, but I think it works. Along with it, we have the strings that were in some ways they were kind of like occupying a lower space. In here, there's slightly more higher pitch, and again, they're pretty stacked up. Not really worrying about specific orchestrations for now. Like I mentioned before, just going for sounds that kind of feel cool. And along with it, we have the woodwinds doing pretty much just the same thing as the strings are, but just lower. Which sounds a little bit more chaotic to have the woodwinds doing the lower parts, but I honestly kind of enjoy it. We're usually used to listening to like the strings with cellos and contrabasses doing the whole like lower thickening up things, and for multiple reasons. Of course, the main one being that it sounds really cool, but I kind of wanted to experiment with something different, and I've done this in other Brad Baker demo songs of kind of switching up the roles of each instrument family and just giving it a completely different vibe. Sounds like this if we put both of them at the same time. And because you can have an epic orchestral arrangement without having like these brass instrument parts doing some like superhero epic actiony vibes, I have a couple of things that are gonna have like very low brass notes that are purposely low in the mix. You kind of don't really notice them. And then these little counter melodies, I usually wouldn't arrange this like this. I would have like a lot of different instruments doing all of these. But again, like I mentioned, because we're running low on time, I just ended up leaving it like this. And to add to the volume of it, I have this synth that is pretty much just doing the same thing, but like an octave higher. It sounds kind of spitty, which I appreciate. And if we play both the synth and the brass, if you listen to them at the same time, it just becomes a little bit different. Here's it without the synths. And now with the synths. Call me biased, but I think that sounds pretty cool. And there are so many cool combinations going on, like if I just play brass parts but with rhythmical woodwinds and strings going on, it becomes a little bit more high energy. If we take the more staccato woodwinds and strings, but instead with the more pad-based stuff, I obviously could have gone harder with like more synth stuff, but because we're running low on time and we still have like plenty more of the song to do, I thought I'd just end it like this, and of course the whole like percussion part of it. And we come to the waltzy section, which I kind of have to work on, and I feel like it's going to be the one that might give me a little bit more trouble. Again, like I mentioned before, waltzy vibes, G minor vibes, even though here I kind of transposed it up to be in like G sharp minor or A flat minor. I can say that I'm not being somewhat inspired by Howl's Moving Castle, so I kind of want to get inspired by that vibey orchestration and instrumentation part of it, where there's a lot of counter melodies, a lot of different stuff going on, and it's not like action movie cinema part like this. And yeah, we'll figure it out along the way. I started recording this like an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, after recording the first section, but I'll just be honest with you guys, part of it I was on my phone and was distracted, and there's not really any automation in this. None of this is really any fancy or any like amazing piece of art, like orchestration work. This is not my proudest moment, but for just like a couple of hours in, and for a gig that's probably not going to be paid, I don't feel too bad by not going 100% on this, not gonna lie. And when it comes to these things, I kind of feel like this is one of those situations where I'm always going to feel like I could have done better. And even if I do something that I just think is absolutely flawless, probably like next week or like a year from now or 10 years from now, I'm going to look back at it and be like, yeah, I could have probably done better. So while I love the original song, and I would like to try my best to just do the best rendition and most honorable version of it, right now in this headspace and with this challenge, I am kind of just trying to do the best that I have the patience and energy to do right now. I'm going to try and work on the waltzy section now. I'll come back to you guys when there's an update.
Alright, so I kept working on the arrangement, but it's really late and I'm getting really tired. I've actually worked a ton around the arrangement, and I've tried a bunch of different things to see how much they work or don't, mostly to try to achieve the sound and vibe that I'm looking for. But yeah, I just can't manage it anymore. It was a long day of teaching and working here, so I really have to stop it for today, but I'll try to do it tomorrow as well, because we're running out of days, and I still want to make sure that I get this right. I do some pseudo mixing to it, and most importantly, I practice the guitar parts along with this arrangement so that I can connect things together, because there are some things that I had to change about the original guitar parts to accommodate for the orchestral bits, so gotta practice that as well. As usual, again, thank you for all of your help. I hope you've been enjoying the whole process and sharing of it.
At least it's not completely awful. I am kind of in the nick of time. I think it gives it a little bit of a more fairy tale-ish whimsical vibe. In some ways, it is a little bit of a subversion of expectations, not being able to focus on anything anymore. I found this like endangered beetle a bit chaotic for some of you, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, it is a bit chaotic. It doesn't yet sound exactly as I'd like it to, which would be a great idea if it wasn't already like 10:30 p.m. at this point. And a more faithful experience to the Carlos Verdes experience, I guess. They actually only play in between the real melody. I'm not going to not tell you that I kind of feel a little bit uneasy about all of this.
Hello there. So I don't know if you know, but this is part of a documentary I made. Now, you can hypothetically just wait a couple of days until a new shorter video where it's all segmented down will come out, or you can just go into my YouTube channel and watch the full documentary, which was honestly how I envisioned this content to go, but not everyone's going to go watch a long documentary, so yeah, either go watch the documentary or just wait a couple of days. Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and leave a like, comment, subscribe, follow, and stay tuned for more if you want to indeed stay tuned for more.